Well, one of the victims of the attack by the Deputy President's VIP detail on a major highway here in Johannesburg a few days ago is suing the police minister as well as the SAPS. 8 members of Paul Mashatile's security team have been suspended for that assault, but there are calls for them to face nothing less than criminal charges. So let's talk legal and how this works going forward and discuss the planned lawsuit. I'm joined this evening by lawyer Daniel Eloff, who's made time for me this evening. Daniel, good evening. I appreciate your time. Just orientate me, if you can. How involved are you in this case? Are you representing one of the victims?
Yes, so our firm acts on behalf of Action Society, the civil rights organization, who are in turn acting on behalf of Mr. Levon Fisher. Now, Mr. Fisher is was the unfortunate victim of the violent assault, and the person that you can see on the video being knocked unconscious, and 3 of the other passengers in the car also being legally represented by another attorney based in Johannesburg. So we're rather intimately involved in the matter, not only on behalf of the victim with the civil claim, but we are also assisting Action Society in preparing all the necessary documents for the complaints that they lodged with IPID and the criminal complaints they lodged at the South African Police Service against the members of the VIP unit.
We're going to talk about this planned lawsuit in a moment. May I ask, do you have any way of explaining, without putting the case in jeopardy, what led to the incident? I think this is what so many people in South Africa don't understand. We don't see that on the video. Are you able to share anything about what led to this?
Yes, I mean, nothing of it is a secret. Everything is contained in our client's statement that he provided to both IPID and the South African Police Service. The long and the short of it is they were driving back from Johannesburg, driving towards Pretoria, when suddenly they had this black vehicle approach them from behind and really driving near to their rear. They then were under the impression that, it's a hijacking attempt or some sort of attack. Unfortunately, in South Africa, we're sitting with the reality that people are being attacked on our highways. People will recall that only a couple of months ago, the Murrays were shot and killed on the very same highway. So I think South Africans are living in this state of fear and angst. So they were under the impression that they're being robbed. Then suddenly a second car appeared who pushed them to the side of the road. They then came to a halt next to the side of the road, and that's when the members of the VIP unit got out of their vehicles with firearms in hand and started smashing their windows and dragging them out of the car and violently and thuggishly assaulting them.
Was there any reason given for the attack during this altercation? I know I'm asking a completely ridiculous question. You're busy being assaulted, but do we know if the group in the civilian vehicle knew the VIP officers? Was there words exchanged? Any reason is what I'm wondering.
They don't know them at all. In fact, they didn't even know that they were VIP unit members until afterwards it emerged from the public videos that they were members of the VIP unit. At that point, they just were completely feared for their lives, that they were being assaulted by these guys in suits and with firearms. So there's no prior history. They don't know the people who assaulted them. They were driving, a normal Sunday afternoon back to their home on the highway when all of this transpired.
I'm going to ask you about the lawsuit, the planned lawsuit in a moment, but I think also many South Africans just want to get a sense of the physical condition. How are the victims doing? Is there any way of you explaining that to us?
Yes, I mean, they're shaken up. It's a very violent situation that they went through, and obviously not only do they have physical injuries, but more concerning, I'd say, are the traumatic injuries that they've suffered, the emotional damage that they suffered. And it's a tough situation to have gone through. That being said, I must commend Mr. Fisher. He's a very strong fellow and who's in seek of justice, not only for himself, but I think to shed light on what I would argue is increasing police brutality in South Africa. And it seems as if every year there's this increase. I would argue that it's because of arrogance. I think there are members of the South African Police Service who are completely drunk on power. And that's what, leads to unfortunate situations like this, where, they don't treat South Africans with the dignity and equality that they're supposed to.
This police brutality, and I would even contend impunity, I would guess is going to form part of this potential lawsuit. Give me a sense of how you're going to be framing this, because I understand it's going to involve the police minister as well. Why not the deputy president? Help me understand that as well.
Yes, so the point is these police officers were acting within the course and scope of their employment as members of the police. So they were under the supervision of the Minister of Police. So delictually speaking, legally speaking, that's the responsibility of the Minister of Police. So how the process basically unfolds is you're required in terms of national legislation to first give notice to any state entity if you intend on issuing summons against them. We've now done that. Then there's a prescribed time for them to respond to that letter. They never do, obviously. And then after that, are you only entitled to approach the court? And then it's, the very much tedious and long process of going through this type of civil action. It does take long, but one would hope that the Minister of Police and the state are advised that this is the type of case which they should certainly try and settle, because you don't want it to end up in court. We are going to have to cross-examine these members of the police, and I would expect that that's not going to paint a pretty picture for them or for the Minister of Police.
When you say settle, are we talking about financial recompense for the victims and having these officers lose their job? What's the ultimate goal for you? What would you like to see?
Yes, well, in short, our client wants justice and wants, like I mentioned earlier, to shed light and highlight the really thuckishness of what these people did. The issue with these type of delictual claims is it's obviously, it never fixes what happened. It's only sort of putting a plaster over a really traumatic experience. So you can't really fix the situation and rectify it completely. The point is money, but what you suffered and your sort of psychology is much more worth than any money that they could potentially give them. But yes, it entails monetary compensation, and it might even entail steps being taken against these police officers. But that also being said, we should also remember that there are three processes going on at this stage. So the one being the civil claim on behalf of Mr. Fisher against the Minister of Police. But then there's obviously the investigation by IPID, where they're investigating the conduct, or I would say the misconduct of these police officers. And then thirdly, there are criminal charges against these members of the police because they, in fact, assaulted and attacked another person without any just cause to do so. So these three processes, we hope between the three of them will, at the end of the day, ensure justice for all four of the victims.
Allow me to ask you this in closing as well, because I know you said this could just be a plaster over a traumatic wound, but this could actually have very real consequences. Daniel, tell me if you agree, or if this is your hope, that we could see an end to these blue light brigades, this sort of abuse and impunity. You fighting a case like this could end up actually having a much broader national discussion about why we even need this. I imagine that's what you're hoping as well.
Yes, one would hope. But you can ask any attorney who does general litigation that a lot of the sort of claims that they do is against unlawful arrests and conduct by the police. So our courts are filled with matters against the police. In fact, I had a request for access to information a while back on behalf of a different client. And the figures of compensation that the police pay annually due to unlawful arrests is staggering. So it really is, unfortunately, rather common in South Africa. But you hope that with this type of profile case, that more light shed on it, that public outrage really ensures that we strive towards a society where this is unacceptable, where we hold our leaders to account, and where similar things don't happen again. The sad reality is just that the South African public's memory is rather short. You can go back 1, 2, 3 years, and in every year you'll see that there's a prominent case of police brutality, which causes absolute outrage for about a couple of days. But then obviously, it sort of fades in the memory, but the court cases proceed. but the accountability doesn't necessarily follow, unfortunately.
Yeah, very short memories. Indeed, I completely agree with you. Daniel Eloff, thank you very much indeed for your time this evening. It certainly is a story I'm sure we're going to make sure we stay on top of and keep a very close eye on as it develops over the next few days and few weeks and few months. I'm sure hopefully justice is swift in a case like this. Daniel Eloff is representing one of the victims that was attacked during that SAPS VIP attack on the highway here in Johannesburg. I think it was the N1 highway near Fourways.